Bihari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Shri Shri Radha Giridhar Bhavan ki Jai Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki Jai Shri Shri Gaurita ki Jai Shri Prabhupada ki Jai Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtaki. Hare Krishna. Today we're reading from the 4th canto, the 11th chapter, entitled Swayambhuva Manu Advises Dhruva Maharaj. Text 23. Please respond. Avyaktasya prameyasya nana sakyudhayasya cha navesikishitam tata ko vedata swasambhavam. Avyaktasya prameyasya nana sakyudhayasya cha navesikishitam tata ko vedata swasambhavam. Avyaktasya prameyasya nana sakyudhayasya cha navesikishitam tata ko vedata swasambhavam. Would anyone like to recite the verse? Avyaktasya prameyasya nana sakyudhayasya cha navesikishitam tata ko vedata swasambhavam. Avyaktasya prameyasya nana sakyudhayasya cha navesikishitam tata ko vedata swasambhavam. Avyaktasya prameyasya nana sakyudhayasya cha navesikishitam ko vedata swasambhavam. Avyaktasya prameyasya nana sakyudhayasya cha navesikishitam ko vedata swasambhavam. The Mataji. Avyaktasya prameyasya nana sakyudhayasya cha navesikishitam tata ko vedata swasambhavam. Avyaktasya prameyasya nana sakyudhayasya cha navesikishitam tata. It's word for word translation. Avyaktasya, of the unmanifested. Aprameyasya, of the transcendence. Nana, various. Shakti, energies. Udayasya, of him who gives rise to. Cha, also. Na, never. By, certainly. Shikishitam, the plan. Tata, my dear boy. Ka, who. Veda, can know. Ata, therefore. Swa, own. Sambhavam, origin. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, the Vice Chairman of the Bhaktivedanta Swami. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Please hear the translation. The absolute truth, transcendence, is never subject to the understanding of imperfect sensory endeavor, nor is he subject to direct experience. He is the master of varieties of energy, like the full material energy, and no one can understand his plans or actions. Therefore, it should be concluded that although he is the original cause of all causes, no one can know him by mental speculation. Purport. The question may be raised, since there are so many varieties of philosophers theorizing in different ways, which of them is correct? The answer is that absolute truth, transcendence, is never subject to direct experience or mental speculation. The mental speculators may be called Dr. Frog. The story is that a frog in a 3-foot well wanted to calculate the length and breadth of the Atlantic Ocean on the basis of his knowledge of his own well. But it was an impossible task for Dr. Frog. A person may be a great academician, scholar, or professor, but he cannot calculate and expect to understand the absolute truth, for his senses are limited. The cause of all causes, the absolute truth, can be known from the absolute truth himself and not by our ascending process to reach him. When the sun is not visible at night, or when it is covered by a cloud in the day, it is not possible to uncover it, either by bodily mental strength or by scientific instruments. Although the sun is there in the sky, no one can say that he has discovered a torchlight so powerful that if one goes onto the roof and focuses the torchlight on the night sky, the sun will be seen. There is no such torchlight, nor is it possible. The word avyakta, unmanifested, in this verse indicates that the absolute truth cannot be manifest by any strain of so-called scientific advancement of knowledge. Transcendence is not the subject matter of direct experience. The absolute truth may be known in the same way as the sun covered by a cloud or covered by night. For when the sun rises in the morning, in its own way, then everyone can see the sun. Everyone can see the world and everyone can see himself. This understanding of self-realization is called Atma Tattva. Unless, however, one comes to the point of understanding Atma Tattva, one remains in darkness in which he was born. Under the circumstances, no one can understand the plan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord is equipped with varieties of energies, as stated in the Vedic literature. Parasya Shakti Vidideva Shruyate. He is equipped with the energy of eternal time. Not only does he have the material energy which we see and experience, but he also has many reserve energies that he can manifest in due course of time when necessary. The natural scientist, the material scientist can simply study the partial understanding of the varieties of energies. He can take up one of the energies and try to understand it with limited knowledge. But still, it is not possible to understand the absolute truth in full by dint of material science. No material scientist can foretell what is going to happen in the future. The Bhakti Yoga process, however, is completely different from so-called scientific advancement. The devotee completely surrenders onto the Supreme, who reveals himself by his causeless mercy. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam. The Lord says, I give him intelligence. What is that intelligence? Yena mam upayanti te. The Lord gives one intelligence to cross over the ocean of nascence and come back home, back to Godhead. In conclusion, the cause of all causes, the absolute truth or supreme Brahman, cannot be understood by philosophical speculation. But he reveals himself to his devotees because the devotee fully surrenders onto his lotus feet. Bhagavad Gita is therefore to be accepted as a revealed scripture spoken by the absolute truth himself when he descended to this planet. If any intelligent man wants to know what God is, he should study this transcendental literature under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. Then it is very easy to understand Krishna as he is. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunamitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manoveeshtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeyam Shri Guru Shri Uttapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpati Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanustate Devi Pranamami Hari Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaurabhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Shrimad Bhakti Vedanta Santanam Namaste Saraswati Gauravani Pachari Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Prashanchari Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hare Krishna. So today we continue discussing Swayambhuva Manu's instructions to Dhruva Maharaj. So we'll try to discuss something, and there are many experienced devotees here who could later share with us their realizations on this subject matter. So this part of Dhruva Maharaj pastimes, we have seen over the last few weeks how Dhruva Maharaj, for the fault of one yaksha, he was massacring the entire clan of the yaksha dynasty. And he came to a point where he was fighting, he had so much anger. He was a victim of atirosha, excessive anger. We've seen how anger is accepted in certain situations, but this was excessive, this atirosha. And because Dhruva Maharaj, had already had association of Narada Muni, he had seen the Lord. But despite that, he had this particular fault that came up. And immediately, Krishna again sent another Mahajan to correct him when this fault was there. So he sent Swayambhuva Manu. And Swayambhuva Manu came and he reminded him what who his great-grandfather was, that he had such a qualified spiritual master, he had seen the Lord. And so he was saying, so this is not right. He was trying to correct him and bring him back to the path of Dharma, because he already knew, he got instructions on what Dharma is. But then when he was sort of going away from the path, again the Lord sent Swayambhuva Manu to bring him back onto the path of Dharma. He reminded him what pleases the Lord. In the previous verses we said, Titikshaya, Karuneya, Maitriya, and Samatvena. These are qualities that please the Lord. Tolerant, merciful, friendly, and equal to everyone. So, and this is not, this is unlike a pure devotee. Having excessive anger is not good for a pure devotee. So you're having anger because you think that this yaksha killed your brother, and then he repeated the same instructions that Arjuna got in Bhagavad Gita, he repeated to Dhruva Maharaj. And he explained to him who is a real killer, there's an apparent killer. So the yaksha looks like he's the apparent killer, but the actual cause is is Krishna. And then he says that the Lord, in the previous verses, in yesterday's verse, it said that how the different philosophers, they understand this cause by different ways. Something it's karma, something it's time. And it's not wrong, but it's only partial understanding. And he was saying why these philosophers, they cannot understand. But you're not like this. You have already had the mercy of your spiritual master. But these people, they cannot understand. Because why? In this verse, he explains. Because the Lord is avyaktasya. He's avyakta. Avyakta means unmanifest. Vyakta is the manifest material world. So he says, he's not manifest to our imperfect senses. Even within the material world, we cannot see so many different, we can't see places. We're sitting here, we can't see past this door. We can't see, from here there's a fog, you can't see past the fog. If you close your eyes, you can't even see the back of your eyelid. So we have so many imperfections. And just what to speak of this earth, there's so many planets, other universes, we can't see any of these. So what to speak of the spiritual world and the Lord who resides in the spiritual world. So he's avyakta, he's unmanifest to our material senses. And he's aprameyasya, he's immeasurable. Prabhupada here translates it as transcendental. Prameya means one who can be, we can see through direct sense perception. Apameya means one who cannot be seen by direct sense perception. So we can see that, and another word for apameya is immeasurable. So we all know that the soul is 1/10,000th part of the tip of the hair. And scientists, they haven't found an instrument that can measure that to that minute detail. But then even if they do, they can't see the soul because it is not seen by a material vision. And then what to speak about the spiritual, the spirit soul, the super soul, if you can't even see the spirit soul. Another name for Krishna is Adokshaja. And so that also means one who is immeasurable. Adokshaja, Adankritam, Akshadam Gyam. So knowledge that is acquired by our material senses, if we try to approach the Lord with our material senses, trying to see him, we will be defeated. So that's Atta, Krita, Akshadam Gyam. So he'll be defeated by our material senses. We cannot understand Krishna by our material senses. So even it says, what to speak of us, even the demigods, they cannot understand, fully comprehend Krishna. And there's some many verses in Bhagavatam that describe that. And another reason why all these philosophers, they cannot understand Krishna is because he's got Nana Shakti Udayasya. So Nana Shakti means he's got varieties of energies. This material world is being conducted automatically by so many of the Lord's energies. You have 33 million devatas, demigods, controlling different aspects of the creation. And that's just the material creation. You can understand it. Can you have a company with 33 million departmental heads? It's a huge company. And beyond that, there's the Lord himself who comes in so many different incarnations. The Lord's incarnations, they're described as like waves on an ocean. You can't count the number of waves in an ocean. And one wave goes, another wave starts forming. So he's got so many different energies. So it's impossible to understand all these energies. There's the pastime where I'm sure many of you remember how Srila Prabhupada, in a few different instances, he actually had darshan of Narada Muni. I've seen during some kirtans where he was, once he started singing Narada Muni Bhajavina, and another time he stopped And he said, there's Narada Muni laughing. And there's another time in London, in the initial temple in Bury Place. Srila Prabhupada, when he arrived there, they had made a nice Vyasasan for him. And then he saw the Vyasasan and he said, oh, you should make another 2 small Vyasasans. The devotees were asking, who was this for, Srila Prabhupada? And Srila Prabhupada says, you don't see? There's no, we don't see. So Narada Muni and Lord Brahma, they come here every evening for the evening arati. And that asana is still there in the Soho Street temple. So Srila Prabhupada can see, and he's telling them, you don't see, you can't see. There's 2 personalities, Lord Brahma, and we can't see. There are 33 million devatas, we can't see, so many lords incarnations. So he's got Nana Shakti, we can't see, we can't even measure his energies. So how do we then see? Prabhupada gives an example of the sun. When the sun, if it's at night time or there's clouds, then you can't see the sun. With whatever you can try to get the strongest torch. The scientists can try to come up with some kind of way to make the night go away or blow the clouds away to try to see the sun. But it's impossible. Prabhupada says it's not possible to do that. If it's at night, you can't see the sun. That's it, no matter how hard you try. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, he says, Naham prakasha sarvasya, yoga maya samanvrita. He says, he reserves the right to be known. He covers everyone with a curtain of maya. Similarly, Kunti Maharani also prays, Maya javanika channam, Agyan adokshajam avyayam, nalaksha se muradisha, nato natya dharo yata. He says, adokshaja, Krishna is beyond the sense perception. And he's covered by the curtain of Maya. He's like an actor on the stage. When you see an actor on stage, you look at him playing the part, you just think he's that actor. You don't realize that there's an actual person behind them. So like that, we can't see the sun. We can't understand Krishna for these reasons. It's avyakta, apramesha, his energies are inconceivable. We can see how we understand knowledge. We try to get knowledge through 3 different ways. We have pratyaksha, by direct sense perception. And we see how we have, we have 4 defects, our senses are imperfect. So by that way, to see the Lord is impossible. And the other way is anumana, to make inferences. For example, if you see some smoke coming from far away, you can tell that there's a fire there, therefore there must be smoke. That's the inference. But in order to do that, you must have seen fire first to understand that there's smoke. So like that, it's unless you have prior experience of Krishna, then you cannot tell. So you're always guessing Krishna may be like this, God may be like that, God may be like this. But if we have never seen God, then everything else is just speculation. You can't make any inferences. And this is called Aroha Panta. It's an ascending process, using our own ability. We're trying to understand God. And that will definitely fail because of all our perfect senses we've discussed. So there's another way of getting knowledge, and that is Sabda Praman. That is a descending process. And Prabhupada gives it. So Sabda Praman means hearing the transcendental knowledge, hearing the truth from a self-realized person. The examples that we get we've read is how, like, if a child wants to find out who the father is, he can try to go and find the father, try to go around finding every man in this world and trying to do a DNA test to find out who the father is. Or he could, by anumana, maybe that person's my father, he's got the same eyes as me, he's got the same nose as me. So you go around searching, but you may never find out who the father is. But then if you ask the mother, then the mother can tell you exactly who the father is, and you'll know perfectly a full knowledge. So in order to understand who our Supreme Father is, we have to go to the mother, and the mother is the scriptures, the Vedas. They are the mother, and they will point us to who our real Father is. So Krishna here, Prabhupada explains how in order to see the sun at night time or when there's a cloud, there's no way, there's no possibility of us seeing the sun. But when the sun comes up by the mercy of the sunlight, then we can see the sun. Not just the sun, we can see everything else around us, we can see ourselves. So therefore, to understand Krishna, who is Aprameshya, who is Avyakta, to understand his energies, the only way to understand it, if Krishna himself decides to reveal it to us. If Krishna is merciful, if Krishna wants, by his mercy, then we can see everything. So what is this mercy? How does Krishna's mercy descend? It descends in many, many forms. But if Krishna's mercy was to take the form of a person, Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj says, Krishna Kripa Shri Murti. Or Murti, Srila Prabhupada's Murti is its form. It's non-different from Prabhupada. So what is the Murti that Krishna's mercy takes? What is the form of Krishna's mercy? And that mercy is the spiritual master. Krishna Kripa Shri Murti is the spiritual master, who is non-different from Krishna. So the evidence is given in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Is Guru Krishna Rupe Hana Shastra Praman Guru Rupe Krishna Kripa Koreno Bhakti Gan. So according to Shastra, Krishna and Guru are non-different. And Krishna's mercy in the form of the devotee, of his pure devotee, of the Guru, delivers the devotees. Then against Jiva Shakshad Nahitate Guru Chaitya Rupe Siksha Guru Hoye Krishna Mahanta Swarupe. It says one cannot Jiva Sakshad Nahitate. The spirit soul cannot understand Krishna. But Krishna in the heart, the Chaitya Guru, he manifests as Mahanta, as a great devotee, as a spiritual master. So therefore we cannot see Krishna, but Krishna's mercy, we can see him. And Krishna's mercy comes in the form of the spiritual master. And our duty is to search out such a spiritual master who is the embodiment of Krishna's mercy. And then, as Bhagavad Gita explains, it is Tadvidhi Pranipatena Pariprasnena Sevya. We surrender unto him, render service, ask him questions. And because he knows Krishna, he's empowered by Krishna, he can reveal, he can give us the tattva, he can teach us all about Krishna. And the spiritual master, what does he do? He engages us in devotional service. So we're talking about how we have imperfect senses, so he engages us in devotional service to purify our senses. So explain, Ata Shri Krishna Namadi Navavet Grayamindriye Sevan Mukhehi Jivado Swayameva Spurtida. So he engages us by initially starting off with engaging our tongue in the chanting of the Hare Krishna and eating only prasad. And then when the tongue is controlled, all the other senses become controlled. And then Ata Shri Krishna Nama Adi, we can understand Krishna's name, form, qualities, pastime. Then everything about Krishna will be known. And therefore we say, Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya. He awakens our eyes that are darkened by ignorance. He gives us knowledge and gives us the torch of knowledge. So in that way, then we can see things as they are. We can see the sun becomes visible to us. So devotees, should we try to see Krishna in this way? Should we try to approach the spiritual master to try and see Krishna? I mean, that's how we want to see Krishna, and that's what is explained here, that we can have vision of Krishna by following instructions of spiritual master. But then, Srila Prabhupada, you might have all heard that famous quote that Srila Prabhupada says, my spiritual master, His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada said, don't try to see God. Act in such a way that God sees you. And why would God see us? God will see us if we are serving the instructions of His pure devotee. If we're pleasing His pure devotee, then we can attract them. Oh, who is this person serving my pure devotee? So that just a personal experience that I had that sort of drilled this point into my head was once we had the good fortune of being with our spiritual master, His Holiness Srila Swami Maharaj in Bhubaneswar. And we were there with our family, so the children were there, and he asked, he said, have the children been to, he said, have you been to Jagannath Puri? He said, yes, we had some time back. He said, have the children been to Jagannath Puri? And he said, we said, no, they haven't. Then Maharaj said, okay, let's make a plan, let's go to Jagannath Puri. So we were looking forward to it. The day before we were going, we went to the Lingaraj temple, the Lord Shiva, the very ancient temple of Lord Shiva in Bhubaneswar. And just in front of the temple, there's the Ananta Vasudev temple. And one of the devotees was explaining how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, before going to Jagannath Puri, he came there, he had darshan at Lingaraj, had darshan at the Ananta Vasudev temple, took bath in the pond there, and then he went to Jagannath Puri. And we were thinking, wow, we're going to follow in the footsteps. We were really excited. So we went, came back in the evening. The next day we were supposed to leave early in the morning to Jagannath Puri. And so Bhaksa Maharaj called us and he said, now I've got some things to do now, so I think I might not go to Jagannath Puri. Then he said, serving Srila Prabhupada's instructions is my Jagannath darshan. So then he said, but he said, if you want to go, you can go. So then that sort of, that idea was put on hold. So we didn't go to Jagannath Puri that time. But yeah, so that the instruction that I got was, don't try to see God, but just try to please the instructions of your spiritual master. And then automatically you'll have darshan of deities. So this part of the pastime for me kept coming back to a particular point, and that was the point about how Dhruva Maharaj, he was fortunate. He had the association of Narada Muni, who's a Mahajan. So he had taken spiritual initiation from Narada Muni, and from what we understand, because of the association of Narada Muni, he had darshan of Krishna, and he completely understood what is Dharma. And then at a point where he got a bit carried away with this fault of atirosha, excessive anger. And then again, Krishna sends another Mahajan to correct him, to guide him back onto the path of pure devotional service. So that was the principle of Siksha, the principle of taking Siksha at all points in our spiritual journey. So there's this pastime in Srimad Bhagavatam, the 11th canto of the Avanti Brahmana, who had 24 different Siksha gurus. And they were not even, there were things like animals, spiders, snakes, the body, even the prostitute Pingala, he was taking instructions from Pingala and a young girl who was about to be married. So many different places he was getting Siksha from. So this is something that crossed my mind, that the spiritual master is trying to give instructions through so many different ways. It's whether we want to be receptive to it. And here, Dhruva Maharaj had the darshan of the Lord. He could have got angry and said, "Who are you to instruct me? I know what I'm doing." So he doesn't have to take. He could have not accepted the instructions, but he could understand that Swami Manu was Mahajan, who was telling him for his own spiritual progress. So like that, we could be getting instructions from so many different people. It doesn't have to be particularly a senior Vaishnava. It could even be, as you're distributing books on the street, you might see somebody with some quality that might be instructed. It might not be a big philosophical instruction, but it might be just some little practical thing that explains something you've read or your spiritual master had said. So we can get instructions from so many places we're looking out for it. And it is said that we accept the spiritual master, the initiating spiritual master, the Diksha Guru, as a representative of Krishna and a representative of Krishna's mercy. And that's the same thing for the Siksha Guru as well. He's also a representative of Krishna. It's not just the Diksha Guru, it's the only representative of Krishna. And we see from Gaudiya Vaishnavas, we have particularly affiliation or attraction towards the worship of three particular deities. Shri Radha Madan Mohan, Shri Govindadev, and Gopinath. Those are the three worshipable deities of all Gaudiya Vaishnavas. And it said that the initiating spiritual master, Diksha Guru, is a direct representation of Madan Mohan, the deity of Madan Mohan, the attractor of Cupid. He's so attractive, and he attracts us to the lotus feet of Krishna. He gives us Sambandha Gyan. And then he also gives us instructions. And the next deity, so that represents the lotus feet of Krishna. And then there's Govindadev, that represents the chest of Krishna. And that Govindadev manifests as the instructing spiritual master, the Siksha Guru. And then finally we have darshan of the beautiful lotus face of Shri Shri Gopinath, enchanter, the lord of the gopis. And that's how Gop to become the servant Gopi, but the Padaka. So the instructing spiritual master is non-different from Krishna as well. And so this particular pastime just keeps reminding me of that, the whole philosophy that taking initiation from the Diksha Guru, you also take instructions, and then through your spiritual journey, you're always getting instructions. And you might have a prominent devotee who's giving very specific spiritual guidance to help you in fulfilling the instructions of your initiating spiritual master. And this part of Srimad Bhagavatam keeps reminding me of that particular the importance of Siksha especially. So I'll just stop here. These are all theoretical to me, but there are many experienced devotees here, so I'd request anyone would like to share some realization on this point. Or any comments, questions? Okay, try. Hare Krishna.
As a person, consider instruction. So that person in the street would like to speak about books, understand about many paths. We give this example that the book is like a lamppost. It can guide you, but you don't want to hang on to it. Just use it to get something. You want to stick to one or two just use the book. It's not.
So the book is just a guide. Is that what he's saying? I guess the book is there, but it's a guide is there, but you don't forget the guide or you don't go past the guide. And so once you're past it, you don't forget about the book. At least for us, the book is always there guiding us. It's not just a lamppost that you go past and you forget about the lamppost and you go to the next lamppost. That lamppost is always there for Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, nectar instruction, nectar devotion. That light is permanently there for us. Anyone else would like to have any thoughts on that, bro?
Personal opinion, but the rest of it, it's not just
So the book is it's not different from Krishna actually. That is a goal as well.
I have a question, Prabhu.
Sorry, Prabhu, you had. You have a desire and you hear something and then you're like, okay, this is my spiritual master saying. That can happen. And so then I guess it really depends on you serving your spiritual master so you understand what his instructions are. And then if those instructions are helping you in your service to your spiritual master, if it's in line with the goal that your spiritual master has given, then that is correct Siksha. Then you should definitely follow it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's so important to understand what our spiritual master's mission is, what his mood is, what his instructions to us are, so that then we can understand, we know what the goal is, then we can see what is favorable, what instructions are guiding us towards that goal, what might be actually bringing us away from that.
Canada's what?
Canada's gone.
Canada's gone.
Comments? Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking Are you eating? Should eat, bro.
From my understanding, all three are important. There's no, but this, and from what I've understood, at least two of the three must be in the same line. So in Bali Maharaj's case, the spiritual master was the only one. The sadhus and the sastras were saying the same thing, but only them. And then there are also lots of instructions on when a spiritual master can be disobeyed. So in that case, he was saying something against the scriptures and what sadhus is doing. So I think our life is based on these three things: the spiritual master, scriptures, and the experience. Would you like to share something, Prabhu, on that front?
The Saturn and the Guru will only stay the same line as
So the Sadguru will only speak. It's in the sastras. Thank you. We'll end here. Thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Jai Gaur.